Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. So a probe by New York Times has made some shocking revelations. According to the report, US tech mogul Neville Roy Singham financed Indian news website NewsClick in India for spreading Chinese propaganda. In 2021, an investigation by the Indian agency ED had revealed that this media portal had received funds worth up to 38 crore rupees from overseas, with authorities tracing the money to this American millionaire Singham. Now, this is what the New York Times investigation has revealed, that in April 2018, a defunct company, part of this Singham network, invested as much as 10 crore rupees into NewsClick at an artificially jacked up premium of 11,500 rupees per share. International investigation further revealed that NewsClick received 27.5 crore rupees from Justice and Education Fund USA. NewsClick got roughly 27 lakh rupees from a US-based G-Span LLC. It doesn't end there. International probe has also showed that roughly 49 lakh rupees were transferred from a USA-based Tricontinental Limited Inc. to NewsClick once again. 2 lakh rupees was transferred from Brazil-based Centro Popular Demidas to NewsClick. This just gives you an idea of the kind of foreign funding involved. But the probe also revealed that 20.5 lakh rupees was transferred this time from NewsClick to one of the accused of the much reported case of Bhima Koregaon violence. And after the fund transfer, the accused was appointed as NewsClick's independent partner. That just gives you the sense of its links and leanings. The NYT probe also shows that large sums of money were paid to journalists on NewsClick's payroll. NewsClick has responded to the main charges to the query by News18. We wish to confirm, they say, that the allegations being made against us by certain political actors and sections of the media are misleading, unfounded, and without basis in fact or law. They've also gone on to say that we are indeed an independent news organization, and this is the most critical part, any allegation that we function as a mouthpiece of the Communist Party of China or other interests are false. Remember, this, as far as Indian interests are concerned, is the biggest issue. So, to tackle this issue, let me bring you some reports in the past or opinion pieces that NewsClick used to publish when it was operational, and you can judge for yourself whether it was doing Chinese propaganda or not. So, on the issue of the Chinese apps, interesting. Remember, Chinese apps were banned in India? It published in July 2020, walling out TikTok de facto censures 200 million Indian users. So making a case for TikTok not to be banned. Banning WeChat effectively closes the only communication channel between Chinese and Indians, as if we needed that app to do so, to be connected. This was one of their pieces. On the border dispute with China, one of its reports said, and I quote, "To settle the border disputes with China, India must engage in comprehensive border negotiations and tone down militaristic rhetoric." So the onus was put on India. On India's foreign policy at large, it berated External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, saying, and I quote, "The efficacy of the entire foreign policy line that Jaishankar pursued, shepherding India into an alliance with the US, which is debatable by the way, has become questionable." This is another piece from December 2020. So I'm just bringing this into light to bring you an idea of what NewsClick stood for and whether to a discerning eye it was possible to gauge even then, without the revelations of its funding, that it was doing China or CCP's bidding. And that's our big debate coming up. Is this report or these links coming out in the open proof also, importantly, that an anti-India clique, even within the media, does exist?
China, NewsClick, a part of a umbilical cord. चीन के प्रति प्यार ये दिखता था और भारत के खिलाफ दुष्प्रचार ये विदेशी जमीन पर भी और विदेशी न्यूज एजेंसियों के माध्यम से भी प्रोपेगेंडा के तहत होता। एक एजेंडा था एंटी इंडिया, ब्रेक इंडिया कैंपेन।
Let's go across to the guests joining us. Guru Prakash from the BJP stays with us. Anshula Vijit of the Congress party is joining us. Swaran Singh is a foreign affairs expert. Also, Arun Anand continues with us. I want to go across to our non-political experts first up before I get into the political war that the BJP has brought in the Congress in on this issue. Swaran Singh, let me begin with you. I mean, I played a few excerpts of some of the reports or the opinions that this website used to publish. Of course, to many viewers or readers, it may not be evident that this is somebody's bidding. But do you believe that without the allegations of funding alone, a case could have been made that there was indeed pushing of the CCP's line or Chinese interests via this website in India?
First of all, I think there is no doubt about it that whether civilizationally you look at Chinese history or you look at the modern China, you look at communist China, propaganda has always been a very significant tool civilizationally and even in current China.
Yes.
Communist Party was created in 1921, propaganda department was created in 1924. And in communism, propaganda has been an important tool, and more recently, as China has become more capable, we have seen similar debates in Australia, for example, politicians being sort of incentivized, New Zealand, several Southeast Asian countries, United States, Canada. So it is understood that China, with its increasing leverages, is trying to convert its economic prowess into political influence. Mm-hmm. Second, very clearly, is important to understand how India's clout and stature around the world is emerging important and significant. And China, of course, begins to get more worried about China's concerns about India's rising stature, rising acceptance levels around the world. And therefore, just like it does in other powerful countries, China would be understandably inclined to influence media debates in India or use all other sources to expand their propaganda, expand their view. And we have seen multiple media houses using, virtually replicating Chinese media on their pages.
Yes.
And so that is not something new. It has been going on for a long period of time. I think this could be a wake-up call in that sense. If you have a report like this, and I think serious investigations happened in 2021, and I think this is, in that sense, a wake-up call how India should deal with China. I'm not saying that we should stop engaging China. We have about $150 billion of economic, sort of interactions almost on annual basis. We have large number of people crisscrossing every year. And so that is not something as an option that we can stop dealing with China. How we can sort of make our monitoring, our standardization, our procedures a little more conscious of the fact that Chinese would be intending to influence internal debates in India.
And especially
to make
the media.
China, especially, media is a powerful tool in that sense of conveying your view, and media would be an important target for Chinese to engage when it comes to influencing internal domestic narratives in India.
Yeah, so you're right about the fact that propaganda is not new, and a part of propaganda or an element of propaganda is part of any government. The dangerous element of what has come to light via investigation, and of course our own independent investigation is ongoing. Arun Anand, I'm coming to you with this because you're from the fraternity too, is how Indian portals with Indian faces, Indian journalists can all be part and party to that propaganda that works against India's interests. And fundamentally what this story is doing is that while there may be one section of the media that is berated day in, day out as quote-unquote Godi media, this is allegedly what qualifies as Godi media. because literally your funding and everything else is putting you or pushing you in a certain direction, and exactly sections of this media will, label everybody else. But this is, as Swaran Singh said, a wake-up call that this does happen, this does exist. Everything you read as a highly rated opinion is not being fair to Indian interests, unfortunately.
You have raised a very interesting question, and I have had the opportunity to visit China also on a couple of occasions, and also meet a lot of journalists there, a lot of Chinese journalists there, and the establishment there. See, it happens at two levels. One is that they have, as Mr. Swaran Singh was saying, they are very adept at propaganda wars. So it is not only NewsClick, they have agencies like Xinhua, they have Confucius Centers, they have China Radio International, which runs services in more than 60 languages. So it's a very kind of, you can say, it's a massive mechanism. They have bought a lot of stakes in Hollywood. And so they have done it, and especially under Xi Jinping, they have done it in a very concerted manner. Now, there are two ways in which they operate. One is basically when they target the individual journalists, when they take them on, trips, they give them fellowships, and they give them a lot of support. The other thing is that when it is done through institutional mechanism.
Yes.
So when, it's done at the individual level, I would still give, some kind of leeway to journalists that they might have been taken for a ride. But as far as institutional support is concerned, so it's a very clear-cut, case of, knowing it, doing it, basically blowing the trumpet off, or basically putting out content which is basically in favor of China. So I think it's a very dangerous proposition. It is also a very, it's a great challenge for the media fraternity, because we are a self-regulated fraternity.
Absolutely.
The point is basically, I hope, the Editors Guild of India, though I call it these days the Editors Guild of India, because the way, they operate in a one-sided manner. So they should come out with this thing. They should censor it. And until and unless we do that, and it's a question of grave national security, it's a national security concern. But just to end it, over the last 2-3 years, there have been a number of reports by various think tanks. I can tell you, Joint Society Alliance and CIHS are two think tanks who have come out extensively on reports which have said that how Chinese have penetrated into Indian media.
Yes.
So I think it's time we take cognizance of that, and it should not become the only issue in itself. It should actually basically, kick off a kind of what we call an exercise to clean the Indian media of, such dubious organizations.
There are two things. One, as Anurag Thakur, the INB minister, mentioned that, this kind of propaganda cannot be protected in the name of freedom of the press. That is one. And in media, one of the biggest things that needs to be taken care of is disclaimers. Now, there is no problem if you're presenting the CCP's view or China's view, quote unquote, even in India as part of a written opinion piece or report. But if your funding is making you biased, there has to be a disclaimer about the antecedents. I think that's the most important thing. Let me bring in our political representatives as well. Anshul, I'll give you the first opportunity, because the BJP and its sitting ministers today have directly dragged in the Congress party. They've gone back to 2021, to the statements that your leaders made when NewsClick was being probed, how you tried to defend them, how you tried to make this about freedom of the media and press, and basically question any action even against dubious portals like this one. All because they allege you're actually part of this quote-unquote conspiracy to keep Indian interests down and further foreign interests. Avijit.
Yeah, Shivani, dragged in is absolutely the right word. First of all, it's exceedingly laughable. I wonder what the world is coming to when the BJP starts quoting the New York Times and establishes it as some kind of a new benchmark for journalistic truth. I mean, I wish they'd shown the same courtesy during the mismanagement during the COVID years, when the New York Times has brought out this huge expose. But be that as it will, I mean, at that particular time, not only was the Congress party and other opposition members, but members of the Press Council of India, the Women's Press Corps, the Delhi Union of Journalists were protesting against what we believe has now turned into an Orwellian state, where the freedom of the press has been clamped down. Now, when you protest against clampdown of the freedom of the press, and our press index, freedom of press index, is deplorable, it doesn't mean that you're determining the editorial content of the newspaper or the website that you're protesting against.
No, but
How
as a
does that
responsible
matter?
party,
It's an absurd
Avijit, shouldn't
logic.
the Congress
Members
party
of
have
pro
held as
fraternity
horses?
at that
No,
time,
Avijit,
Shivani,
listen,
the similar-
Avijit, let me come in. Just listen to me. Shouldn't the Congress party, as a responsible political player in the country, held as horses, waited to see why the investigation is needed, what are the antecedents, what comes out of it? Recently, the BBC, investigations are also something that one can point out to. You raise a hue and cry without the subject matter or the case itself speak for itself. Is the Congress not guilty of that?
This is a climate. No, hang on a minute. First of all, you must distinguish. You made a distinction between anti-India propaganda, which must be there, but those who critique the government. So, anti-government critique. Now, every organization, so far has the history of the BJP and their management, every organization that has critiqued this government has found itself in some kind of trouble or the other. I mean, you critique the mismanagement of the COVID, next day your newspaper gets recorded. I mean, it's there for the history books out there. Secondly, for this China connection, I mean, if there are spin doctors of the China's political philosophy, it has to be the BJP and the RSS. Why hasn't the PM cared? And we say it time and again, this is being brought up time and again, right?
Okay, but let's not deviate. I have limited time. Let's not deviate. Let's focus on the media's role and how, under the pretext of freedom, surely even I as a journalist will say, not everything is kosher. You cannot just go on and say and do things. Your funding absolutely is a matter of concern for any democratic country. This is not just India. As our panelists said, this is questions being raised in the Oceania region. This is a chatter happening in America and all across the world. But Guru Prakash, please come in. That every criticism of the government brings in a reaction from the government and its agencies, and therefore opposition parties are compelled to question the methods employed by this government, which they did back in 2021.
No, Shivani, I think this idea is clearly beyond my comprehension. Every single leader from the opposition parties, they're sitting day in and day out and using abusive languages for our Prime Minister. I don't even want to comment here. And then they say that criticism of government is unnecessary. And like my dear friend Anshul pointed out, the China connection, I have a simple photograph from 2008. And I have a simple question to ask my dear friend Anshul. In what capacity is Mr. Rahul Gandhi signing this? People of India have every right to know the truth. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is not the head of the state. Mr. Rahul Gandhi back then was not the head of the party. In what capacity did Mr. Rahul Gandhi sign this MOU with the Chinese embassy? Number two, it has been established, people of Gandhi family, members of Gandhi family are the trustees of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. The Rajiv Gandhi Foundation has received 1.35 crore from the Chinese embassy. What was the purpose? Was that fund accounted for? Was that fund audited? Number three, my friend Anshul was pointing out, so every time there is some sort of action on anti-India activity, what is the anxiety of the Congress party? At the same time, when NewsClick was being raided by Enforcement Directorate, who all did not tweet from the Congress party? Senior leader of the Congress party, former Chief Minister, Mr. Digvijay Singh questioned it. Senior leader of the Congress party, Randeep Surjewala questioned it. And there is a history with the leadership of the Congress party. Mr. Salman Khurshid, former External Affairs Minister, senior leader of the Congress party, has said, जब बटला हाउस encounter हुआ था, तब सोनिया गांधी की आंखों में आंसू थे.
Okay, let's focus on the China issue. Anshul, I want to give you 1 minute to...
Last 10 seconds. Last 10 seconds. No. अरे इतना लंबा समय आप देते हो. Shivani, you have to understand, when India is growing, today we are the 5th largest economy. We are the world's largest, most transparent democracy in the world. G20 is happening here. On the initiative of India, International Day of Yoga is celebrated. On the initiative of India, International Year of Millet is celebrated. On the initiative of India, we are seeing Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Every multilateral initiative is happening on the base of India. India is taking its global leadership position. There are certain forces internationally and in India which are the breaking India forces.
Okay, fair enough.
Congress
That's
is
I accept it as
cahoots
much
with the
that it would
breaking
be a
India
little bit
forces.
naive and foolish to suggest that there are no such anti-India forces. whether funded from some other powers or not, these forces exist. But Anshul, I want to give you a minute to explain this. That MOU signed between the Congress and the CCP keeps coming back to haunt the party. We still don't know what the contours of that MOU is. Now, Congress's position is extremely eroded on the subject of China because of that MOU. On top of that, willingly or unwillingly, aren't you becoming party to anti-India forces or lobbies by supporting them, willingly or unwillingly? Please respond very quickly, Anshul.
Shivani, please do not conflate a critique of this government, which we have done relentlessly when China has occupied so much of our territory. That's why you have 16 rounds of co-commander talks sitting here. And if anyone has been complicit
38,000 square kilometer. Please go and read the statement of AK
Guru, let me
Antony.
speak. I gave you that courtesy.
38,000 square kilometers, sir.
This
AK
kind
Antony,
of propaganda
AK Antony ji has spoken on the floor of the parliament, just reminding you.
2009,
38,000 square of kilometer, your defense minister,
China
Mr. AK Antony, has said it on the floor of the parliament.
Talks Arunachal Pradesh with China.
Okay.
They were invited over here. And that dialogue actually went on in the sort of stewardship of Prime Minister Modi, where he met the Chinese premier multiple times. You've had Chinese companies which have been donating to PM CARE, but PM CARE has been opaque in its disclosures. You've had Oppo, you have Xiaomi. Xiaomi actually said that they tweeted that they've donated 10 crores to PM CARE. Why haven't you brought
All
out
those questions are fair enough, but
what is
should
the
a political
BJP
party like the
connection with
Congress
China?
become or
And
be
not only
seen
that,
as becoming a
there-
party to what is clearly emerging as anti-India narrative funded by overseas governments?
Well,
Abhijit,
explore
very
it.
quickly.
Have a probe. Who's stopping a probe? You know, you began the debate, Shivani, and very rightly so, with the way China is trying to influence the world through money, through hook or crook, through nefarious means. That is a mature debate. It can't come to this kind of thing where you keep kind of trading these cheap charges when the BJP has so much to hide and there's so much opacity in what the BJP does. Why doesn't the PM CARE come out with this list of donors and be done with it? You should ask this particular question. Why doesn't it come out and say...
Guru
that
Prakash,
how
I have
is the
15
Vivekananda
seconds.
Foundation
You want to
being
respond
funded?
to that on the issue of China? Why not respond to that too if you bring in the MOU?
No, Shivani, we have to understand that it was the Congress Defense Minister, Mr. AK Antony, who has said that 38,000 square kilometers, 38,000
PM
square
CARES fund
kilometers
is
of
asking
Indian
about.
land is
No,
compromised.
I'm asking about Guru.
It
I'm
was
asking about
during-
PM
it was-
CARES fund.
It
in the
was
same line that
during
you asked me a question.
It was during UP era. It was during UP era. Mr. Rahul
Okay.
Gandhi uses words like
No, but
"Hamare
they-
Jawan."
I've run out of time. I do have to end it there. I do thank our guests for joining us. We'll have to wait and see how this investigation pans out.